Hello and welcome into the Grove. I guess kind of podcast. I don't really know what to call it. Haven't really figured out a name yet, but I am one of your co-hosts, Nate Hassan, and next to me I have Nathanael Duncan. If you guys have not subscribed to us on YouTube, go ahead and go do that. Just a little red button right below our video. Pretty simple. We would really appreciate it. And then if you guys want to send us comments or questions you have for the pod as far as football questions or pretty much any random question we'll answer as well. So send us those on YouTube or Twitter. Follow us on Twitter, and we would love to hear from you guys. Jumping into our content, though. So what are we starting with here, Nathaniel?
We're going to get into today with some news that we had actually a couple hours ago. Shaun Wade has been traded to New England. So that is a headline across the NFL, and for you Buckeye fans, most of you know who Shaun Wade is. So whether you loved him, hated him, or indifferent towards him, I seem to have mixed feelings based on the year. But that's an Ohio State topic that we can talk about, and I don't know, what were your thoughts on the trade?
So I sign up for a couple of other like tech subscriptions from other people like us that do this kind of thing. So Buckeye Talk sent me one and was explaining it, and it was basically the same mindset I had. They were saying that basically the Ravens training camp and the preseason and all of that, apparently lots of the roster players that were already there performed well enough that Shaun Wade wasn't going to get that roster spot, so that's probably why they traded him, just to kind of get what they could out of him instead of just dropping him. Especially as a rookie, like seeing the talent that he could have, because someone would pick him up immediately if they dropped him. So,
do you remember what round he got picked in? Was it like a third rounder or second?
I think it was
rounder?
The fifth round.
Fifth round, okay.
Yeah. So here's the official deal for those of you that want to know. So they traded Shaun Wade for a 7th round pick in 2022, so this upcoming year, and a 5th round pick in 2023, which I'm gonna guess it's 2 picks that are about where Shaun Wade was traded. So I suppose he's already gone up in value, but
kinda, yeah.
Kind of sad to see him traded away already.
Yeah, it's not really common for you to see players traded before the NFL season, even like usually,
rookies especially.
Yeah, I mean, you use your pick on. You only get so many picks every year, and I mean, maybe if someone was a free agent signing after the draft, like those are pretty common. Like, I mean, sad news, but like you said in your other podcast, Tim Tebow got let go. So like, he got let go before the season. He got let go after a preseason game, whatever their reasoning was at. But I don't know. It's just not common to see guys get traded before the season actually starts, but you never know. I mean, Shaun Wade played really, really well when he was at safety at Ohio State. Obviously, he didn't have the best showing as a cornerback.
Which I don't think he'll play in the NFL anyways. I think he'll stick to the safety position, and I think that's where teams will play him unless they're in a pinch.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know that he could play both.
He's not really that great of a cover corner.
No, but if you need a guy, like, hey, your number
injured.
1 and 2 CBs are hurt, you got to pull a guy to cover that third receiver. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have another safety you can fill in, which the Pats do. They have Stephon Gilmore, who's hurt at the moment, which makes sense as to why they want depth there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a potential for him. Obviously, he can learn under Belichick's coaching, and like you said, Stephon Gilmore's a top.
He's a great safety.
Corner. Is he safety? Safety.
Top 5 in the league. I think he's a safety, yeah.
Safety or cornerback? I can't remember.
Secondary.
Secondary, yeah.
That's what he's classified as. I don't know.
So, I mean, you never know.
He's a CB. CB, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Which I guess he might not be even competing with them because I don't think Shaun Wade's going to play CB, but whatever.
No, I like you said, I think he'll be a safety in
the
NFL. But you never know. Shaun Wade could be big time. You never. I don't know. So Patriots could have picked up a pretty solid guy there, or not. So we'll see. I guess only time will tell.
Okay, so I think we covered Shaun Wade pretty well. So kind of transitioning from there, the other big Ohio State news this week, Ryan Day kind of officially named CJ Stroud as the starting quarterback. He didn't necessarily say, like, hey, he's the guy for the whole year. But he did say that he will start for Minnesota, and he was very specific to say Minnesota only. Not that I think there's much to read into there. But he was very, very vague about that.
Yeah, I think he left it open just because you don't want to say, like, CJ Stroud's our guy, we're riding with him, ride or die, and then have CJ Stroud come out and be like, I don't think CJ Stroud's going to come out and bomb, but he may come out and be less than great. You know, you don't know. We have no sample to look at. We don't really know other than what he produced in high school, and that's not really great information when it comes to college football. So
anyone can play high school football.
Yeah, but it's also like we've talked about. Like Ryan Day also said the same thing with Justin Fields in comparison to Gunnar Hoke. So we think he's the guy. It would probably take some terrible possessions or losing a game for him to lose this job. So,
and even then, I'm not even sure he would lose it. But I think the biggest thing in him saying that is keeping McCord and Miller happy for the moment. I don't think they're going to be long-term guys, and I don't even think I think they'll be gone before the end of the season before the start of the season next year.
Yeah.
But I think it was very important to him saying that to keep the door open, like, hey, there is a chance you guys will play, which I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it's Ryan Day keeping his options open, which sounds kind of ruthless, but you hear a lot about how ruthless college football is and how that's really the only way to go when it comes to being a coach.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to lose your number 2 and number 3 guy. I mean,
it's not rec football.
We know we're Ohio State fans. We know that those are important positions.
Yep.
Like Braxton Miller went down. He was quarterback 1. JT took over the next year, and then he finished that season out and got hurt at the end of the year, and Cardell came in and won us the national championship as the 3rd-string quarterback. He was the 3rd-string roster quarterback. That's like saying this year, which is a similar style year, because that year that we won the national championship, we were like, we'll be good this year, but next year's probably our year, which is kind of what we're thinking right now. I think we have a chance, but that means Jack Miller could be our national championship winning quarterback. Does that mean he's going to be an NFL-level quarterback? Is Cardell an NFL-level quarterback? No, Cardell is doing radio shows for Ohio State podcasts like we are. So it's an important position nevertheless. So we want him to stay, and Ryan Day for sure wants him to stay. But there's somebody that's putting some heat from behind. Happens to be the highest rated quarterback recruit of all time. So we'll see what happens there. I think it's up to anybody.
Yeah, that's kind of the other thing that throws a wrench into all of it is Quinn Ewers, because Nathanael and I talk off camera all the time because off air all the time because we both love college football. So it's obvious to us, but I mean, the highest rated college football player to ever come out of high school. I told him earlier, you have to be a generational talent when you go from one recruiting class to another, and you immediately jump every other player in the country and push everyone down a ranking because you are that good.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you hear guys say, well, like, oh, I don't think he'll see any playing time this year, and it's like, do you understand? Like, do you get it?
Do you
like,
believe that?
How many years has college football been around? Like, it started in the early 1900s, right? Like 1920s, 1930s. I think
that late 1800s, but
so a long time. And since we've been tracking recruits, which is probably the last 20, 25 years, as far as like the way that we do it now, he is the highest. He may not be number 1. He's definitely number 1 all time to Ohio State. I think he may be like
he's
2
number
or
1 overall.
Okay, he's right in the mix. There's some other perfect.
The only other one that was close was another Ohio State quarterback.
There were some other perfect rated players. Like Jadeveon Clowney was a perfect rated player. Vince Young was perfect, had a perfect rating. So there are a couple other players that were that high. But to be clear, he's very, very unique. So it's not going to happen again for a very long time at Ohio State. So why waste the time that he's here? He's already enrolled. He's already on the team. So this is going to count as a year of eligibility. So if he plays next year, he'll only play 2 years like Justin Fields did.
Yeah, and I think it's stupid for people to think like, oh, okay, CJ Stroud wins the job. He's playing the entire year. Okay, maybe he starts the whole year. I don't necessarily think I would argue with that, but
Tua took over in the national championship game.
That was a different story. But yes, none of the quarterbacks we have right now, any of the 4, have never played never thrown a ball in college football. I guess CJ Stroud played a couple snaps, but that's the problem we have right now is no one has experience, so no one knows where to place us. Our rankings are messed up. The guys don't know what it's like to be in a game. If you think, like most Ohio State fans should probably think, that Ewers is going to be our starting quarterback, not this year, but for the 2 years following, maybe 3 years if he decides to stick around, but I don't think he will, then there's no reason Ryan Day doesn't play him towards the end of the season. Even if it's 5 snaps here, 2 snaps there, a quarter there, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think
he can play 3 games. He can play 3 games and still retain.
Yeah, when we're up, I guess who's late in the season? When we're up by 40 points against Michigan State.
Or Michigan. We put 100 on
him. hopefully in Michigan. But no, when we're up, why wouldn't he throw him in for the last half of the fourth quarter? I mean, it makes sense. Get him that experience. Get him a little bit of game time to know how it goes. No, you don't want him to get hurt. So you're not going to put him in a tough situation unless you absolutely have to, which there's 2 guys ahead of him, so you don't absolutely have to. Well, there's 3, including CJ Stroud. I meant there's 2 ahead of him in the backup room. But,
yeah.
But no, I mean, Ryan Day's going to get him the experience, and as soon as that happens, you know one or both of Jack Miller and Kyle McCord are going to transfer.
Yeah.
I think they know what's happening, too. It's not a secret.
The best way to look at it, or the way that I look at it, talent-wise, he's the most talented quarterback in the room.
Yes. Raw talent.
Yeah. If we're looking at the experience factor, Kyle McCord's got, 6-7 months on campus. He came in January. He's an early enrollee.
Yeah.
And CJ Stroud and Jack Miller have a year and a half.
Yep.
But none of them have game snaps.
No.
The only other thing that I feel...
They have snaps. They don't have throws.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud just sprinted up the field.
Yeah, important snaps, I guess.
Does he have a touchdown?
Maybe. He may have one rushing touchdown.
I'm pretty sure. Anyways, that's beyond the point.
The only other thing that I see that plays a factor in this is his conditioning. Because I do think that the other 3 have at least had 6 months to a year and a half under Mickey Marotti's program. And Quentin Ewers, from what I've heard or what I could tell, is not but he's not in bad shape, but he's not in great shape. So,
well, we were kind of talking about that earlier. He's injured at the moment. Now it's not going to affect his career at all. No one, we assume it's just a little minor, hey, you're out for a couple of days thing. But he's not throwing right now because they don't want to aggravate the injury more than it already is.
Yeah, I think they said that he's only going to get actually a total of 3 days of practice before the actual season starts. And the thing is, for those of you who don't know a whole lot about college football, once camp is over, practice is no longer fight for your position. It's watch film and prepare for the team next week.
Yep.
So Ryan Day's not going to be playing with any other rotation combos unless there's an injury. Nope. The people who are in their spots are in their spots for most of the season, barring them either playing like trash or injury. So Quinn Ewers isn't going to take significant snaps in practice if he's not in that rotation. He's not going to be at this point. So he'll probably be the best scout team quarterback ever in the existence of college football. So he's going to play scout team, and he may get to light it up because the wide receivers 4, 5, and 6 on the team are insane. So the guys he's going to be throwing to are probably going to be pretty good, and he will get experience. So
he's going to be throwing to probably the 4, 5, 6 guys, I would think, because the number 3,
it's Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I don't think he would throw the second team. He might just in rotation, but you would assume because Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are probably gone next year. One of them,
they're both gone. Olave's 100% gone, and I would say Garrett Wilson's 99% gone.
But with them leaving, the 4, 5, 6 guys are going to be the 2, 3, 4 guys,
which we'll see.
Passing something to Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's already going to be comfortable with those guys, so that's a good thing for him.
I think we're going to see all of them in the rotation, but at some point. I think
the 3 spot will rotate. I think JSN will rotate with Emeka Ibuka and Julian Fleming some,
but you think about it when you're running those routes, sometimes you need a breather. So you'll see you'll see Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson get most of the snaps, but you'll see Harrison and Egbuka and Fleming. Fleming, people aren't talking about Fleming. Fleming was the best receiver in the class last year. We didn't get to see a whole lot of him last year because Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of had the more flashy plays, but Fleming was in there.
And you have the 2 best receivers in college football.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even
this year, maybe not last year, but this year.
Not last year, but for sure this year. Yeah.
No doubt, definitely the best duo. if nothing else. But.
To finish that up, like, he's going to get snaps on scout team. He's going to get experience. He's going to learn the playbook. He's going to be in the weight room. All good things. And, if Ryan Day feels like he's ready to put him in at some point, then that's his decision. The thing that I keep coming to is I trust Ryan Day to put the best quarterback at that position. And if CJ Stroud's going to be the best chance for us to win this year, then that's it. And I look forward to the battle in the spring. I think that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. The other kind of little last bit thing about there that we kind of already talked about some, not maybe not on air, but Nathanael and I talked about earlier, Heisman chance. So just before we wrap up this section about players, I guess I'll ask the same question I asked earlier. I know the answer, but if you had to give me a range of like 2 to 3 spots ranked from like 1 to whatever you think, where do you think the starting Ohio State quarterback lands? Whether that's CJ Stroud, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, whoever.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards like the 5 to 7 range, and I'm gonna probably feel pretty firm on that until I see evidence that proves me otherwise. I think CJ Stroud will be very good, but I think kind of what I said is I don't think there's really a chance for him to win the Heisman when there's players that are better than him on the team.
On the same team.
Yeah, so we'll talk about running backs later, but wide receiver wise, we just talked about Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. I think one of them too, depending on whoever the leader is. I think Garrett Wilson's a little more talented, but I think Chris Olave is the number one guy because he's got the most experience, and that's kind of how Ohio State does it.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at with that.
And we've talked about this before, but I think the thing that kind of ruins it for Ohio State this year, like you said, first of all, whoever the quarterback is, no matter who it is, isn't going to be the best player on the team.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure. I mean, you could even say like 5th best, 6th best.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Not even including wide receivers. You can maybe throw running back in there. Definitely throw like Haskell Garrett in there.
Yeah.
Like some of those really, Zach Harrison possibly. Some of those guys are really, really talented football players.
We want to say there's a lot of like, we're like, oh, this guy could be amazing, but we don't really know. There's so many players we just don't know.
Yes.
Because
the only thing that sways that kills me is Heisman voters are idiots.
Yeah.
And they like to vote for quarterbacks because everyone likes to vote for quarterbacks for the Heisman.
Yeah.
No one likes to look at the offensive tackle that
which is a bummer.
Never let a sack happen, or the defensive tackle that stopped every run that came within 5 feet of him.
Speaking of, I'm so excited to watch this offensive line this year. I think this offensive line is going to be freaking
They're
amazing.
so big. So big.
That's a different topic for a different day. I could talk about that for a while too.
Maybe when we record, we'll have seen them play Minnesota or Oregon.
That's probably next time we'll actually be recording.
Do a little review on it.
We're gonna record multiple podcasts at once for next week, since next week is game day. But the next time we're recording, we'll have actually got to see one full game of Ohio State football. So that'll probably be fun to talk about.
Yep. Okay, so moving on from quarterbacks. Kind of talked about Ewers, kind of talked about Heisman, kind of talked about Stroud. Other big news this week. So if you guys have not been paying attention to college football news, the biggest thing for Ohio State at least was probably the quarterback. The other big thing for Ohio State, and the Big Ten specifically, was the alliance. So talked last week about how Texas and Oklahoma decided to switch conferences and go to the SEC. In retaliation or reaction to that, they won't admit it publicly. But in reaction to that, Pac12, ACC, Big Ten all said, okay, well, let's form some sort of alliance to make our teams still national contenders and still make them look really good. And give them good teams to play against and not just crappy conference games or non-conference games like Mercer.
Yeah.
Alabama.
Like all those teams we talked about, yeah.
So yeah, the big thing that happened this week, Pac-12, ACC, Big Ten Alliance. Now, basically what that means is starting whenever, I would assume late 2020s.
Somewhere between 2026, 2030, I would say.
So, somewhere in that range. What's going to happen is, at the moment we play, is it 6 or 8 conference games? Is it 8? I think it's 8.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now it's 8 conference games.
4 non-conference.
And sometimes they happen to be...
It might be 9. It might be 9 and 3. Because we're playing Minnesota in that for...
You're right, it is 9 and 3. Okay. So yeah, 9 and 3. So right now it's 9 conference games, 3 non-conference, which occasionally happen to be an ACC team, or Pac-12 with Oregon this year. With what's happening here, what's going to happen is you'll see Ohio State play 8 conference games. So they'll play 8 other Big Ten teams, and then they'll have 2 games against 1 Pac-12, 1 ACC, and then they'll have the 2 non-conference. So your Akron, your Bowling Green, your... who else do we usually play? There's a couple other...
Toledo,
occasional...
Toledo, Tulsa, Akron,
Toledo,
Bowling Green,
Cincinnati
Buffalo, Cincinnati.
I think that's next year.
We've played lots of teams. There's teams that are close. We usually, the way that they do it is they like to help out teams that are kind of close by.
Yep.
And the other teams are going to make so much money to come play us.
Oh,
like we're paying them millions of dollars, a couple $1 million.
Smack Akron, but you know how much money Akron's making?
They probably make like $2 million off of it.
Which is more money than they're going to see in their...
Yeah, that's their season. That's their season. They come get destroyed by us so that we can fund their athletic department, pretty much.
Which is great. I mean, for Ohio sports,
I'm
all for it. Like, play a crappy game. I don't care. It gives our players a warm-up. It gives Akron a game to say, like, hey, we only lost to Ohio State by 21 points. That's only 3 touchdowns. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the way that I'm kind of looking at it is, like, 8 conference games, 2 alliance games, and then we're going to probably schedule, hopefully, I mean, like you were saying when we were talking earlier, we got Oregon home and away, we got Washington home and away, we got Notre Dame home and away, we got Alabama home and away, we got Georgia home and away. So you can expect the like one big team not from our alliance.
Yeah,
so like an Alabama schedule, I think
is mostly locked until at least 2027, if not like 2029.
I think it's 2028 or something like that.
Yeah. So if you guys go and Google right now, I mean, I could probably try.
There might be a 2029 game against Alabama.
2027. Ohio State football schedule. They'll schedule these home and aways against big teams to make this money and get things prepared. Let's see what 2027 has. The only ones that we have:
Alabama,
Boston College, Bowling Green, Alabama, which is interesting. They have Bowling Green scheduled that far ahead of time.
Let's see how far we can go, because I think we might be hitting 28 or 29 before this.
Yeah, let's see what it says. Okay, so this list goes to 2033. We have Oregon scheduled. Okay, so I guess it does go pretty far. But
if we think about, and that's a part of the alliance.
Yes,
so if we think about it,
reschedule that because they're Pac-12. They would fix that and just make that a part of that schedule.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
31 is Georgia,
which we would want to keep anyway.
Probably also Georgia.
Yeah.
And then 28 was that Bama? Is that the one?
It'll probably be Bama again.
Yes. So a couple SEC mixed in there, but.
We would want to keep those games either way. So I feel like 2026, 2027 would be the first years that we may even want to change. But Boston College is ACC too. So
my only worry is if you look at a year like 2028 where we play Bama September 9th. So that's probably the first game of the season. So you're playing Bama as an opener, then you go and play Oregon, and then you go and play North Carolina. That's a lot of.
I say you take like Arizona. No, wait, is Arizona State Pac-12? Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
you take Arizona State instead of Oregon that year, and you
swap them out.
You take I don't know, an ACC team that's decent, like Virginia Tech or Virginia or something.
Boston College.
You take a team that you don't want to play two top 10 teams in the same year you're playing Alabama.
Well, and then you're still playing conference, so we're going to play Big Ten.
Michigan, Penn State. We have no idea where they're going to be.
State. We're going to play Michigan. We're going to play. Who else is in our half of the Big Ten? I'm trying to think of the other big teams.
Gosh.
It's probably it on the East.
Those are the threats because Wisconsin's in the.
And then depending on the year, could be Indiana.
Michigan State's in our conference, in our side too.
Yeah, it's Michigan State.
Well, they used to be great.
They used to be.
They used to be good. We were dogging out with them for like years. It's only been like the last 3 to 4 years that they haven't been much of a. Remember, they made the playoff in 2016 or 2017. They made the playoff.
Did they? Mm-hmm. Are you sure?
Yeah, they beat us out for the spot.
Oh, that's right.
Because we didn't play in the Big Ten Championship game.
Yeah.
They beat Iowa, I think, in the Big Ten Championship game, maybe.
Huh.
But they made it. They're the only other Big Ten team to make the playoff, other than Ohio State.
Yes. Anyway, so back to the Alliance. So that's kind of where it's headed and like what it kind of looks like. It'll be exciting to see. I mean, we're playing Oregon this year, so we'll already see it a little bit. But it'll be exciting to see the difference in football because everyone knows the Big 12 doesn't play defense, but they're great at offense. Everyone knows the Big 10 is very balanced and even. Well, I was going to say everyone knows the SEC is all defense, but that's changed recently. But I mean,
that's their defensive focus.
Yeah, it's all very different football-wise. So it'll be fun to watch some of those games and see, like, hey, how does Ryan Day match up against Urban Meyer at Notre Dame? No, I'm kidding.
Nah. If Urban Meyer comes back to college football,
it'd be a Notre Dame. That's why I said that.
Yeah.
But no, it'll be interesting to see how teams match up and just the different schemes because you don't really see ACC and Big Ten often unless it's a bowl.
That's true. You don't see it a whole lot actually at all.
Or Pac-12, sorry. ACC you see a little more often.
Yeah, but neither. Both of them are pretty seldom.
Virginia Tech. I mean, you say ACC a little more.
I mean, we are seeing Oregon and Washington over the next few years, and then we're going to go more towards the SEC with Georgia and Alabama, which
is fine.
I'm interested. Those will be interesting games. I don't know the last time Ohio State scheduled Alabama or Georgia in a regular season game.
Well, the other thing to think about is we have no idea who the players are going to be because that doesn't start until 2025 or so.
Bro, these kids are not even in middle school yet. They're probably sixth graders.
Though I'm sure there'll be like a fifth-year senior that's a freshman this year, redshirt freshman that'll stick around, but
that wouldn't even be because Alabama's first year is 27.
Right? Oh, is it 27?
Yeah.
Okay, so 2025
yeah,
is the first year. So there'd be no way.
Unless you got like
get COVID for 2 more years and they get eligibility waived and these guys are 28 playing football.
Who do we have who's like a fifth or sixth year that is it DeMario McCall? I think it's DeMario McCall.
McCall is, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like redshirted, he got hurt, and then I think COVID gave him an extra year.
So he's like fifth or sixth or 7 years.
I'm pretty sure it's 7 years.
It seems like he's been here since 2017.
I have the Ohio State roster pulled up. I wonder if I can sort by age. I don't know if I
Or you could just look at the year that DeMario McCall signed with Ohio State.
That's also true. DeMario McCall, 247.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I'm guessing 2017 or 2018.
2016.
Was that his senior year of high school?
He's our age.
So
he's 24 years old, playing against 18-year-olds in college football.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, more power to him. If you're going to say that's kind of probably going to be the same situation with Cameron Babb. Like, this guy coming into Ohio State was probably, I think he was the highest rated wide receiver recruit in Ohio State's class that year. And keep in mind, Chris Olave was in the same class.
Yeah.
Chris Olave is a senior this year, so this is his fourth year.
Garrett Wilson. But Garrett Wilson was ranked like 180. Something stupid low.
No, Garrett Wilson was high. Garrett Wilson was the year after.
Oh, Chris Olave was a low one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris Olave was the 3-star. Garrett Wilson was the 5-star the next year.
You know what I meant, though.
Yeah. But most people, like, if you would have asked them 4 years ago, like, who do you think is going to be the great?
Cameron Babb.
Cameron Babb. Cameron Babb was a much better rated receiver.
And then we recruited 35-star wide receivers because Brian Hartline was a stud.
Or he's, like, giving them $1 million to come play, which is... They can basically do now. Not Ohio State in and of itself, but sponsors. Did you see all the players that got cars at the car dealership Pataskla today?
Gosh, no.
CJ Stroud got a car. Haskell Garrett got a car. Mayan Williams got a car. I think there was like 5 players that got cars today. I saw it on our Twitter feed. But
they deserve it.
Cameron Babb's have 4 straight ACL tears. Back to back
really?
to back to back. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
2 on his right knee and 2 on his left ear.
Oh,
knee.
That's terrible. Well, I don't know his story as well, but I know DeMario McCall, like, the reason he's still around is because he wants to be a coach one day.
Yeah.
He's openly said, like, I want to coach Ohio State someday. Like, I think his goal is to stick around as long as humanly possible. Graduate, come back, and be, like, one of those, like, what are they called? Coaching assistant.
Yeah.
And then maybe get a position. I don't know. But he's doing the exact thing he should be. I mean, take literally all the eligibility you can.
Yeah.
Get all the experience you can. Learn under these guys. Make connections. He's been in the Big Ten so long. I'm sure he has James Franklin's phone number. Like, he probably knows other Big Ten coaches. He's been in the league. So.
Yeah, and I think it's a good opportunity for him to just continue to stay here.
Yeah, I don't know. I like DeMario McCall a lot as a guy, so I'm only going to say good things about him, so I'm probably biased, but...
Do you want to hit the if we were to add?
Yeah, so kind of going from here, so we kind of got off track with recruits, but back to the conference talk. So obviously the SEC added a couple of really big name guys here with Texas and Oklahoma. the fun thing to do that's kind of a fantasy thing because it's never going to happen, especially with the way this alliance is working out. But the fun thing to kind of do that everyone likes to do is the adding teams to the Big Ten, because it's happened a couple times in the recent past.
Yeah, we got Nebraska and
Maryland and Rutgers.
Rutgers and Maryland, yeah.
So what I kind of want to do here is pick our brains and think who would make sense to fit in the Big Ten, location-wise, as far as how close they are to everyone else, athletic-wise, as far as competition, name recognition, all of that, and then academics, which academics is kind of like tertiary. It's not as important as the other two, in my mind at least.
Yeah.
But as far as the Big Ten goes, the Big Ten does value academics a lot as far as being in the conference. So I guess those are kind of my 3 precepts, and I have a list of ones that I would probably at least consider adding. There's a couple that I would put in before anyone else, but I'll let you go first and pick who you want.
Yeah. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I think if there's one team that I always think about as who I want to come play in the Big Ten, it's Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame would immediately add so much value to the Big Ten, like you said, both academically and athletically. They would be I don't know if we'd play them every year, but to have Notre Dame on our schedule every other year, like that would be awesome. So immediately your strength schedule goes up there. As far as storied program and history of college football, when I think about that, you really think about 4 or 5 schools. You think about Ohio State, think about Michigan, think about Notre Dame, think about Alabama. I mean, there's a couple other schools that could get thrown in there, but as far as just like consistent great, like they've been in the realm of being a great program for a long time. Those are kind of the schools you think. Oklahoma kind of could be in that conversation.
There's some other ones that used to be good that just haven't, like USC, Florida State. Just in the last decade and a half.
Those ones aren't as the old timers.
Miami's
those are like the last 25 years, but like if you look back all the way back to like the 1940s, 1930s, 1950s, wherever you want to go, those are the teams.
Yeah.
Like you can go back coach to coach to coach and see greatness. Like you go Ryan Day to Urban Meyer to Jim Tressel to Earl Bruce to Woody Hayes. Like you can keep going, and then there's other coaches for Ohio State, but and then with Alabama you have Nick Saban and Bear Bryant. I'm sure I don't know all of the other coaches for Alabama because I'm not an Alabama fan, but you're gonna see stuff like that. So Notre Dame, just because of that and because they consistently, whether or not they win the national championship or not, but they're consistently a good team. So
and once it becomes a bigger playoff bracket, they're going to be another shoe.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to say it because they're an independent.
They probably will. I could see them being in there every year.
Which is stupid because there's going to be 2 at-large teams given spots, and Notre Dame's going to take it almost every year at that point.
And they can schedule whoever they want.
Anyways, don't get me on a rant about
I know
how much I hate Notre Dame. But
the other team probably, with what you said earlier with like location and stuff, all that playing into as a factor, I think I'd pick Iowa State. This is probably with me speaking with the Alliance in mind, because I wouldn't probably pick a Pac12 or an ACC team because there are some other ones that would be good in there. But I think Iowa State, because they have been relevant here and there a couple times the last 10, 15 years. They are in Iowa, which we already have Iowa in the Big Ten. So for me, that just kind of makes sense. They have a brand. And it's just the potential. Like it's kind of like I don't know, what's a team that like is good one year and not the next? Minnesota, like or that's ACC, but but like Big Ten, there's like or Northwestern. Northwestern 1 year could be trash. The next year they're playing in the Big Ten championship. So like a team that could give you competition.
Yeah.
So those are probably the 2 that I would pick. I'm not saying Iowa State's dream scenario for me. Notre Dame would be kind of dream scenario, but it would work, yeah.
Yes, and I definitely agree with Notre Dame. Like I said, I'm not a fan of Notre Dame because they annoy me that they're independent.
Yeah.
They should
just join a conference.
Join a conference and be like everyone else. But yes, Notre Dame I definitely agree with. I like the Iowa State one for sure. I would probably take West Virginia first, though. Now, the reason I like West Virginia is because it's like an hour and a half, hour 45 from Columbus.
That's not
it's
very far.
Smack in the middle of most other Big Ten teams, if you're counting Rutgers and Maryland, who aren't Midwest like most of us. But it's right in between everyone else, right between Penn State and Ohio State, two other big blue blood schools.
Yeah.
Academic wise, makes sense. They're known for like their nursing and doctors and that kind of stuff. So that makes sense. And then, school, like as far as football goes, they're not a bad team. They're one of those teams that in the 90s they were good. In the 70s, like they have their times. Yeah. They're not great at the moment, but Gunnar Hook was the quarterback for a while, and Gunnar Hook wasn't a bad quarterback. He would have been a decent backup if not JT. Who was it? Fields got hurt. I think he was a backup for Fields.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple quarterbacks.
He's from Columbus, so
when I think of West Virginia, I think of Geno Smith.
Yeah.
And I think of Will Grier.
Yep.
Will Grier, I honestly, when I watched him play, I thought he'd be it.
I think he's really underrated.
Yeah. He's probably a backup in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he's somewhere in the NFL.
I tend to have a lens with the NFL where I only pay attention to teams that I want to, so I have no idea.
Oh, that's right.
Carolina.
Yeah. Will Grier is playing for the Panthers, which makes sense.
So he'll probably be their backup, but I thought he would be good. I never really had high hopes for Geno Smith. There's something about him that I was just like, kind of like a Jameis Winston vibe.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston's been a starter in the NFL, so I can't say. That makes you a top 32 quarterback in the world.
So he also sat behind one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
That's true.
For 2 years. Okay, we do kind of have to wrap up, but another fun thing that I just pulled out of thin air because I thought it was neat. Demario McCall has been at Ohio State so long. He was in the same recruiting class as Nick Bosa, Shea Patterson, Dexter Lawrence, and Rashawn
Gary. Yeah, he's in the NFL.
Demario McCall is an old man.
There's an example right there.
Of what?
A perfect rated player. Rashawn Gary was a perfect rated player.
Yep. But yeah, we do kind of have to wrap this up. We are getting a little past our time. But thank you guys for listening in. We really do appreciate it. If you would like to leave a comment on this video on YouTube or tweet us a comment or a question or DM us or text Nathanael and I, whatever you want to do. We would love to hear feedback. We would love to hear what you liked, what you didn't like. We love questions for sure. We'll answer whatever questions you guys send us, no matter how dumb they are. But thank you guys for listening in, and we will hopefully talk to you again next week.